Thank you for that introduction. I will, it's actually Natasha, not Maria, but I'm sure you figured that out from the slides anyway. That's okay. It's late in the afternoon.
Must be your sister.
Yeah, that's her. That's the one. So what I'm going to cover today is how to make your business irresistible online, or to make your small business, make online work for your small business. So quite often businesses, and I know you're not working in a business in the general sense, there's a lot of not-for-profits and, oh sure, I'll get a bit closer. So making online work for you, it's not just about the technology side of it. So I guess a lot of people do get scared with the technology of going online and taking their memberships online and their organisations online. But if you think about who your audience is and what you're trying to achieve with them, going online is really the next option for you in that sense. So when you're thinking about going online, don't be scared by the technology of it. Okay, succeeding online is really just about people, not platforms.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry.
My apologies.
Yes.
I left my watch there.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
I thought I'd scored a new watch.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. So when you're thinking about going online, don't think about the platform. Don't get scared by the technology of it all. There's so many different options out there as far as the types of websites, the types of platforms, the social media options and all of that kind of stuff. Don't be put off by that. There's people there that can help you with that. The really important part is to think about the people that you're trying to get your message to, and they're the people you're trying to work with. Okay, it's not the platforms. Success online is about the people, and that's a really important thing to think about. If you're still unsure about why you're going online, the picture here at the top was taken in 2005 at the Papal Conclave. And as you can see in 2005, there's a lot of people there wanting to learn about this event. There's a lot of people there interested in this event. There's not a lot of people with their smartphones in front of them filming the event. These days, several years later in 2013, the same area, the Papal Conclave, as you can see there, everyone is connected. Everyone has a mobile phone, a smartphone, an iPad, something like that. And society today, we are all so intertwined with each other. We want to know what's happening. We want to record the event. We want to talk about the event. We want to talk about and share all our experiences with people that we know and that we don't know. Okay, so going online is a must. You really don't have a choice anymore. It is just about the way that you do it, and to remember that you're trying to connect with a wider audience these days. So this is one of the images I love to sort of get this message across, that if you think about your own practices, how many people have an iPad or a tablet, how many people have a smartphone or multiple devices. So the big thing, if you take one thing away today with your online platform, is that make sure it's mobile compatible, okay? Because if you're not mobile compatible, you've automatically shut off half of your audience, okay? And research shows that if someone's trying to look up your website or your platform or anything like that and find out about you, and they can't access your information through a mobile device, it's unlikely they're going to go back and try and research and find that information again later on down the track when they're in front of a laptop or a PC or something like that. So we have a very short attention span online, so you really need to make sure that you're there in front of your audience when they're thinking of you, when they're wanting to learn about you and connect with them that way. So I think that's a really powerful image to show you how much we are connected these days and how much everyone is sort of, has their little world in their pocket as such. The other thing to think about is, we think of our website, okay, I've got my website, I'm good to go, I'll tick that off my list. But when people are thinking about working with you, or they want to know more about your organisation, or they're wanting to deal with you as a business or an individual, it's not just that one encounter that makes that decision for people. It's a series of encounters. So one of my favourite quotes is, marketing happens every time you engage or not with your past, present and potential customers. So every time someone hears about you, hears about your work, comes across something someone has said about you, read an article about you, read an article about the work that you're doing, watched a video, listened to a podcast, any of that, it's all contributing to the marketing of that organisation, of that not-for-profit, of that individual, of that research, everything like that. So it's all the different touch points along the way. So you need to make sure that your message across all those platforms and those touch points is really consistent. You could be the best and the absolute best at what you're doing in your field and in your organisation, but if you're not able to translate that across other platforms, then that message isn't going to get through to people. Okay? When we're looking at buyer behaviour, and this is more, I guess, in the more of a business sense, but it is relevant to not-for-profits, etc. as well. People now with new buyer behaviour, we're not wanting to be sold to anymore. So several years ago, you could have your little trade stand, or you could have your event or your marketing brochure out there, and we as the consumer really had to take your word for it as to what you were telling us. Okay, so not that long ago, if you went to buy a car, or a smaller purchase item, and you went to the dealer and they said, okay, I need this car, you had to take their word for it. So whatever they were telling you was gospel. You had no other way of finding this out. These days, people are much more informed, and most of us know more about what we're buying before we even get to the sales room. Okay, before we're even ready to pick up the phone, before we're ready to engage a different business. My husband's an avid mountain biker, and he knows more about his mountain biking gear before he buys anything than potentially the people selling it to him. And we're all like that. As a society today, we're driven to find the information that we want. It's a few mouse clicks away to find anything that we want to know. So it's about, being part of that journey for people and giving them the information that they want along the way. So consumers these days are out there, they're looking for solutions. They don't want to be sold to. So if you're at a dinner party and someone automatically starts talking to you about what they do and they're trying to sell you something, you're going to think they're a bit strange and a bit pushy, and you're probably going to ignore them for the rest of the night. It's a bit like that in society today, as we don't want to be sold to anymore. We want to make our own informed decision based on trust and information that we've gathered ourselves. Okay, so with any sort of sales message out there, make sure you've got your audience and the end consumer in mind. It's not about you guys anymore, it's about them. Okay, it's about your audience. It's not about what you offer and what you think is the best thing. You have to think in the mindset of, what is my audience really trying to achieve here? What are they looking for? How can I make their life easier? And how can I help them? Okay, by setting that intention of solving and not selling, you're going to get far better traction, and much better long-term traction as well. I mean, you can make a transaction today, but you want to build a long-term relationship with your audience. So the buyer is generally in control, and this will differ for every organisation, but try and make it as relevant to your organisation as you can. A lot of it now is about trust and transparency when we're dealing with different organisations and with different people. Because we can find out so much information about people, a lot of people now will be online. If I've got a meeting with someone, I'm online looking for who they are, what they're about, what they've done. I need to know what they look like. If I haven't met them before and we're meeting out in a cafe or something, I can find everything I want to know about this person online, if they're smart about it. So you want to make sure you're making a really good first impression, because a lot of the time, the first time they come across you will be online. Okay, and the other thing too is people want to know the people behind the business, the people that are driving the organisation they're thinking about working with or being, a member of. So some of us get scared and we try and hide behind our little corporate, facade, but that doesn't build much transparency and trust with people. So it's really important to, let the personality through, show that there's real human beings behind this organisation that are passionate about the work that they're doing and that want to share that with others. And first impressions are really important. Was that a stretch or a question?
No, that was a question.
Yeah.
So can you say a little more about the get to know you, because to some degree it sounds a bit in conflict with what you were saying earlier about it's about them, not about you. I think I get what you're saying, but could you flesh it out a little bit about how far you really think people ought to go? Because there is that issue that you don't want to put too much personal stuff on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So getting to know you is more about not what you ate for breakfast, what colour socks you wear, where you went on the weekend, who you had the dinner date with. It's not really that kind of stuff, depending on your industry. It is more getting to understand what's driving you, what's making you, what drives the passion behind it. What do you get up to in the work sense? So for me, in my social platforms and things like that, I share a lot of stories about the events that I'm speaking at, the people that I've met, what I get a kick out of and that kind of thing. Showing a little bit of my personal side in my professional space is a really good way for people to get to know me as well. It is about your audience though, so you're not up there showcasing to everyone, I'm this, I've done this, I've studied here, I've won this award, blah blah blah. It is about your audience, but it's letting them in to let them get to know you a little bit better. Does that make sense? In a professional sense and a personal sense. Show that you're a human being, okay? So show that there's a real person. Yeah, occasionally, as human beings, we make mistakes. And it's, if you share some of those mistakes and some of those behind the scenes and some of those little hiccups or thoughts that you're going through, it just reinforces with other people that you're a real human being. You make mistakes every now and then.
So as one of the consequences of what you're saying means that, your information has to be really fairly dynamic
Yeah.
and regularly updated,
Absolutely.
so that it's not, next week it's the same image as it was last week.
Yeah, so-
Can you tell me a little bit about, how dynamic it has to be?
Sure.
And how to best achieve it?
So, talking about how dynamic should your online presence be, and say your website and social media and things like that. I know social media is getting covered in the next section, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. But basically, Google, which we all know about, is probably the most dominant search engine around. It actually ranks people's websites now based on fresh and relevant content. So it actually searches not only for keywords, which are important and things like that, but it actually searches for relevance of content and freshness of content and the social sharing of content. So if there's an article out there or a research paper or a video that's been shared a lot, then Google says, well, this is really relevant and important information. I'm going to boost that up in its rankings. So it's kind of Google points or brownie points in that sense. As far as how fresh your content has to be, I'm not saying you have to update your website every day, but if your website hasn't been touched in a year or 2 years, or I saw one the other day, last updated, 2009, yay. Probably need to be a little bit more regular than that. Okay, so your website's never ever finished. Okay, so just because you've launched, you can't tick that baby off your list and never look at it again. Okay, you have to revisit it and make sure that the content is still relevant to your audience. Has your audience changed? Has their needs changed? Listen to the feedback that you're getting. Am I getting the same questions again and again and again from my audience and from my members or my potential members? Is this something I should be updating and should be adding to my website? Is my information confusing people? Do I have too much information there? These days, less is more. So if you've got a homepage and there's 20 different options for me to go and look at, well, I'm just going to back away and find something else to do that's not so hard, because you want to make it easy for people. That little back button's only a click away. We've got this little itchy finger that if we can't find what we want straight away, then we're out of there. So, you do have to be dynamic in the sense that you need to keep your content fresh and relevant to your audience. Social media is a really great way for you to help share and spread the love in that sense. And that is something that's definitely dynamic and that can change on a daily basis. And the great thing with that is it is a two-way conversation. It's not just you putting stuff on your website and pushing it out there and not allowing anyone to talk back to you. Okay? Some of the best relationships I have in business started through social media. Okay? Because we started a two-way conversation. They weren't trying to sell me, I wasn't trying to sell them. We were just helping each other, talking about things that we enjoyed doing, giving each other advice, things like that. You build a relationship with people and that transfers to business. So you do need to keep your content fresh and up to date. And I'm sure as a business, as a not-for-profit, as an organisation, as an individual, you're doing new stuff every day, every week, every month. Okay, it's not as if you don't have any new content. It's rethinking the way that you're putting that out there, okay, in the online space so people can understand what you're up to.
Can I be annoying and ask another question? Yeah. Just to run through class to see if this works. I can hear discomfort from down the back of the room about putting a personality piece on your website. I think a lot of scientific societies and a lot of small not-for-profits have that same sense of discomfort. It's not about you, it's about the members. But there are some quite minimal things you can do that go half the way, that do something. Even if you just put headshots of the members of the executive and the CEO
Absolutely.
online
Simple
with
things
a
like
paragraph of biography. If in your newsletter you feature one of your members with answering 2 or 3 or 4 questions about why they got into the area in the first place, what they love about it. These are not, no one wants to know about your shopping habits. I certainly don't. I'm not telling anyone about mine. So I think we're probably not going to share nearly as much as Natasha is going to share of that personal side.
Yeah.
But think about when you read a story in a newspaper. If there is a personal story attached to that, it has so much more impact.
Absolutely.
I think it's an important point, and you don't have to go the full hog, but there are some quite simple ways of doing it that would work for pretty much every organisation in this room. It can be done quite simply without having to spend your entire time fiddling with a device.
No, exactly. And it's different for every organisation, but people want to know who you are. So does everyone here have a LinkedIn profile for a business? Yeah. So if you go to a LinkedIn profile, if someone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, or I've heard about this person, or I want to know more about them, and I go to LinkedIn and they don't have their photo there, well, I instantly think, oh, then they're not keeping themselves up to date. What are they trying to hide?
Could be really ugly.
Well, or they've got a photo up there that you could tell has been taken about 15 years ago. It's got the nice shadowy, lot of sort of hazy light about them. They've got the beautiful kind of 80s or 90s makeup. Keep them current, because it does build a disconnect between you and your audience. So, you know, no one loves getting their photo taken, but we have to put it out there. We have to show that there's a real person behind that organisation, especially on your LinkedIn profile.
You're absolutely right, because, you know, I'm linked into a lot of other scientists, I'm linked into another sector of business.
Yeah.
Business people have all got their photos up,
Yeah.
the scientists have hardly ever. You know, and I think it's a cultural thing for us, because it's about what you do, not what you look like or who you are, or that. You know, that's not part of yourself.
People aren't judging you by what you look like. Honestly, they're not. Okay, but we want to know that there's an actual person there. And although you know, there has to be a person there to set up a LinkedIn profile, you know, usually. But it's just, we are so used to getting to know the other people, and we're so used to having access to that kind of information, that if we can't see a photo of who it is, then we kind of feel a bit of a disconnect there. So it's simple little things like that. Making sure your LinkedIn profile photo is an up-to-date one, relevant, that if you had, you know, believe it or not, I had long red wavy curly hair not so long ago, and now I have a different haircut. Now, I wouldn't have a photo of me 10 years ago with the long red curly hair, because it's a disconnect. If I meet someone online and I've met them through their profile and we've chatted on the phone, and then I finally go to meet them and that's not the person I expected, you know, there's not a lot of trust there. So it's not what you look like, it's the fact that you are actually there.
Can I just ask, we're talking about LinkedIn, that's a big unknown for me.
Okay.
We have, I suggested it because another society is quite successful with LinkedIn, with workshops and things.
Yeah.
And I suggested it to our younger scientists, and they said they don't use it. And I was really surprised, because I thought I would have thought they would have used something like that, but I think maybe it's just not as well known, or maybe they don't use it because more senior scientists don't use it, or maybe it's just not our area. Or
I think it's an unknown for a lot of people that sort of aren't familiar with the online space. LinkedIn, it's your online business card. It's like another credentials tick on it's an online CV really. So if someone's thinking about working with you, funding a project, aligning with your organisation, they're going to do their research. Now, if they do their research and they can't find you on LinkedIn, or it's an incomplete profile, so you don't have a picture, you've got a title, and really nothing else, it kind of shows that, well, they're not really serious about this. You don't have to go to the paid, versions. They've got all these, fancy extras. You don't need that. The free version is fine. But it is really important in a professional sense to have your profile up there. You don't have to give away anything really personal on LinkedIn. It is a professional online presence, but it gives you real credibility. So if someone's searching for you or your project or your organisation online, you don't have a website or you don't have any other major web presence, because of the sheer size of LinkedIn, that will actually give you you'll get a top result. So if I was to search for Melanie Haynes, for example, I'll pick on you, Melanie, because I know your full name. I don't know everyone else's names here. If she doesn't have her own web presence and hasn't built sort of that online profile, her LinkedIn profile will show up, because LinkedIn is so vast that Google ranks that at the top. So I think it's really important. If scientists want their work to be known, they want to be seen as credible, knowledgeable. If they're going for grants, if they're going for different relationships with people and partnerships, then they need to have that profile. I think it's really important.
maybe we need to have an article about the benefits of LinkedIn.
I can write you one of those. That's fine. Yeah, I think it's really, really vital. Some people take it to the nth and they're on there every day and they're promoting their business and they're in 1,000 groups and things like that. You don't have to take it to that nth degree. It's like any of these things. Pick one or two that's relevant to you and your business, but at least have your LinkedIn profile up to date with a relevant photo or a current image.
Can I make one more point about LinkedIn? And this only just struck me, obviously I'm being stupid about it. It's one thing you can control. So if anyone in this room gets Googled, a whole lot of entries are going to pop up, and in some cases you'll have no control of the content of those entries. It could be someone else has written a Wikipedia profile of you. It could be comments you made in the media, and perhaps they weren't as great as you had intended them to. LinkedIn, you write it, you load it, it's there. And it is an online.
And you can edit it whenever you need to. as your expertise changes, as you know, I only realised last night that I'm a trustee of a charity in Canberra, and I forgot to add that to my LinkedIn profile. I was so busy updating it for all my work stuff, I forgot, I spend so much time with this charity and I forgot to put that on my LinkedIn profile. And I was like, oh, we've got another major sponsor coming on. I went to connect with them on LinkedIn, about to talk about this charity, and I'm like, wow, it doesn't even say I'm associated with this, I'm a trustee. So I quickly updated it, then I sent the request to connect. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. No one's perfect on day one, but it's ever evolving as things change, as you achieve new things, then add them to your profile. It's an online business card, really, an online CB. So this one here, again, maybe not totally relevant to your memberships, but it is the joy of not being sold to. It's one of my favourite pictures today. And it really is that we don't want to be sold to. We want to make an informed decision about an organisation because, we trust them, we like what they're doing, we enjoy their story, we want to be part of that organisation. Now, when someone comes to your website, you have about 4 seconds to make an impression. Now, I know what you guys do is a little bit different, so it's not as if someone's looking for a pair of runners online or they're looking for a new accountant. It is a different field. But we are so driven to make these snap decisions now with the online presence. 5 years ago, for example, the fact that you had a website was enough. Okay, great, they've got a website, might not have touched it since the day it went live, but they've got one. Beauty. Now, with so much competition out there and so many choices and so many different things to look at, we've become very attuned to what feels right for us and what doesn't feel right for us. Okay, and it's really important that you start to sort of keep up to date with that. So when people get to a website, be it your organisation's website, membership base, or any other website out there, you've got about 4 seconds. So the first second is, do I like the site or am I going to leave? Does it feel right to me? Now, we're not designers, we're not developers, but we have this innate sense to know what looks good and what doesn't, generally, because we see so much stuff these days. Then you've got another 3 seconds like, well, do they have what I want or will I leave? Again, if you've got 20 things going on and it's all too hard, people are going to back away. I mean, maybe in your industry, because there's a particular type of information they're looking for, they will continue to burrow through and try and find what they need. But you really have to think about that from your audience's point of view is, what is the client or what is my audience coming to my website for? Okay, there's a really good example I heard the other day, and he did it in a really good, he got 2 people up and they met, and the guy, pretend you're coming into the shop. So the first guy walks into the shop, hi, I've come in to buy some oranges, for example. It was a fruit shop scenario. And the guy read out the homepage. La la la, fruit shop was established in 1964, la 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 la. Now, if someone came into your organisation, would you start with that intro? No. So I see a lot of websites, and especially sort of ones that haven't been touched in a little while, they start greeting people with the scenario of how long they've been around, what they've achieved. It's all about them. It's got nothing to do with me as the person coming to find information. It's got nothing to do with what I'm trying to learn. It's got nothing to do with me wanting to look for a new membership opportunity. It's all about them and how long they've been there and blah, blah, blah. Like, it means nothing to me as a consumer or as a person coming to your site. Now, that's relevant information, but it's not necessarily your opening line when someone's coming to greet you online. Okay, so just take a look at how you're greeting people. When someone sees you and meets you for the first time online, how are you greeting them? Is it relevant to the audience? Is it relevant to the person you're trying to attract? Or is it just a whole lot of blurb about the group and the organisation that has no real personal connection with anyone? Does that make sense to people? So do you hit the mark and look the part? Now, I understand with a lot of the websites you've probably got representing your organisation, you won't always have control over the platform. You may not have control over, the content that's on there. You may know that they need some work, but you don't really know where to start, or how you can get this fixed. But generally, if you do have some control over this, then I'm going to give you some pointers to things you need to be conscious of and look out for. So this is just an example. It's a mock site. It's not a real organisation. But it's sort of a nice, clear, current look and feel about it. It doesn't look like it was built 10 years ago. There's 3 easy entry points for people, like for different things that they could be looking for. It's got a nice relevant image. Like, it's not too hard to take in what this company's about. There's a little contact form there, get in touch, those kind of things. So make it really easy for people. If there's 2 or 3 or 4 different things that you deal with, or so maybe 3 different types of audiences that you have. Don't throw everything on the homepage. Segment it. So break it down so it's nice and easy. So if I'm there to look for, if I want to make a donation, then that's nice and clear. If I want to become a member, that's nice and clear. If I want to look at latest projects, that's really nice and clear. So segment the information so no matter which audience type is coming to your site, they can easily find their way to the area of information that they need. Don't just throw everything out there hoping to cover all bases. Now, I'm not picking on this foundation, but it was just a really cool example. So, is anyone here from the Psychology Foundation?
Yeah,
Psychology?
we are currently revising it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be up by next week.
Awesome. Now, I'm not picking on you, but it is a good example to say that if you, sometimes leaving your website up there actually does more damage than not having one at all. Because if someone comes across your online presence, and it's great, awesome, you're getting it updated, but they go, wow, they haven't touched this in a long, long time. Are they still around? Like, are they still current? Are they still working? Are they keeping up to date with everything else? There's no homepage text, and again, I'm not picking on you, it's just an example that I'm using. If I get
She is picking on you, but it's all right.
No, it's not personally. It's a perfect example of what I was trying to say. So when someone gets to your homepage, you need a little bit of welcome text. You need a little bit to set the scene and tell your story. Google also searches your homepage for relevant information to say, is this a relevant and credible website? So unless you've got something on there, it's not going to work. The other thing to be mindful of is Flash technology. So Flash is that technology where everything looks beautiful and it takes ages to load and it usually plays a song and all that kind of stuff. It was great a little while ago, but try and avoid Flash technology if you can. You can have little bits here and there, but if someone wants to develop your website in Flash, then politely decline and just back away. Because Google can't read Flash. I mean, everything in Flash is embedded as an image, so Google can't actually see the words in your screen. They're not compatible on mobile devices, so if you have Flash on your website, no one can read it through a smartphone or a tablet. And the other thing too, when people go to a particular page, like membership for example, the first half of this is all just links to external members, which takes me away from this website. So you've worked really hard to get someone to your website, don't keep sending them away. Okay, don't have links to elsewhere on your homepage because they'll get lost. People go, oh yeah, cool, and they'll click on that and they'll go to that little world and that little world and that little world, and they may not come back. So make sure that if you have links to external sites, keep them, a few layers down if it's relevant, but don't try and send someone away straight away as soon as they get there. The formatting's moved a little bit, so excuse the slides. By the time buyers are ready to talk to a sales rep, they've already completed 60 to 90% of the buying process. Now, what I mean by this is it's all those little bits of information that we take on board when we hear about you, when we see an article, we watch a video, we read about you in the press. It's word of mouth around, it's social proof, it's online reviews, it's all those little bits and pieces that tick little boxes along the way before we're actually ready to commit to someone. Okay, so just taking that in mind and taking that into account is making sure you're consistent across all platforms, that you're getting yourself out there in whatever channel is relevant to you and your audience, and making a really good impression all the way. So online and offline really does collide in the sense that it has to be congruent across the board. Okay. We actually take social proof and social review into account a lot more than we realise. It's a joke, it's a fun cartoon. I don't know which doctor to choose. One has more friends on Facebook, but the other one just retweeted my message. So research has shown that we'll actually take a review from someone, like a recommendation from someone online that we've never met, that we don't even know is a real person, over the salesman, the sales rep's word of something. So if you have a look at TripAdvisor, all the restaurant guides, if I want to, I'm in the process of upgrading my phone at the moment, so I just put it onto Facebook. Okay, do I go the iPhone 5 or the Galaxy? Which one? And wow, did I get some feedback. Everyone's an advocate for something. So we actually take online reviews and online word of mouth quite seriously these days. If we're wanting to, I've heard of people that have, ready to buy this massive TV or washing machine, big ticket items, and they've mentioned it to someone, and because of one person saying, oh, actually no, don't get that because of this, this and this, get the other one, and 3 weeks of research is down the drain because of one person's recommendation. So we are looking for recommendation and reviews from other people. So if people are talking about you online in a positive sense, awesome. If they're not, or there's no chatter at all, then people don't have, that message isn't transferred very well. So people take into account your online presence quite seriously. This slide here is called the online sales funnel. Now, I'm not sure how relevant it is to your organisations because I don't know each one in that much detail. But generally online, the way the buyer behaviour process or the sales process happens online now is people will start looking for small conversions. So they'll go to your website, they might download a paper, they might get, read something fun or interesting and relevant. They might be a fact sheet or a little article or something like that, and they think, great, this is good, no worries, I'll get that. Then they might come back and there might be a medium conversion. You might have a report that they can download. They're giving up a name and an email address or something like that. It might be an entry-level option to something that you're offering. So it takes these tiny steps with people before they're ready to commit to something bigger. Okay, so you need to build trust with them. So I'm not sure how it would work in your audiences. I'd have to look at each one individually, but generally, a business these days, they would have free information, say through blog posts or articles or videos. So they're giving away free content. They're building that trust and rapport with people. If you can be part of that information gathering process and build that relationship with people along the way by giving them free information, you'd be surprised how much closer you get to a sale than if you just sat there going, no, I'm not telling you anything till you sign here. Okay? Some people are really scared about giving stuff away, but it actually builds trust and reputation with people. Now, just because you've given the information doesn't mean they're going to go do it themselves anyway, okay? We don't have the time to do everything ourselves, but we want to know that you know what you're talking about and that you're willing to share with us and help us. The next step would usually be, if you sign up for an ebook or you download an audio or a video series or something like that, teaching you about the next layer of information. Now for that you might have to give up a name or an email address. So the idea of your website is that's the hub of your organisation, okay? So your social media platforms, your research reports, your articles in the paper, networking events, all those other different things are kind of on the outer, and everything should be feeding, everything else should be feeding back to your website, okay? That's where you want to be able to capture people's attention. Now, if you're a membership-based organisation and you're wanting to drive new members to your website and to your organisation, then sometimes the first time they land on your site, they might not be ready to become a member. They might not know enough about you, or they might not be sure if they're wanting to commit or if that's right for them. So being able to capture at least a name and an email address to sort of keep front of mind, to show them and share with what you're doing, all those kind of things will help build that rapport with people and build that trust. And then the next level down is the bigger conversion. So they've had a little taster of what you offer, and then they're ready to commit a bigger term. Now, I don't know what your membership options are. I don't know if it's a small entry-level item or if it's a bigger commitment for people. But usually there's sort of a few layers before the final big yes in business today, and just with the way consumers are working. I'll explain this a little bit. So, like I said, your website is your hub of what you're doing of your organisation. It's a way for you to share what you've been up to, the work that you're doing, projects that you're running, all those kind of different things, showcase different members, and all the other elements, the social media elements outside of that should all feed back to your website, okay? A lot of people say, oh, but I can just open up my business on Facebook, and that's, I don't need a website. That's great, but you don't own that platform. Facebook could change the rules tomorrow, and you don't own the database, okay? They could change things, and I've heard of people who have actually, their businesses stopped because Facebook changed something, and they couldn't capture, they had 5,000 fans, but it's gone. So they're really great platforms for you to drive conversation and to get people to know you and to find out actually what your audience is looking for. It's a great way to sort of ask questions and get feedback from them, because your audience might be looking for something so simple that you'd never thought about. It's a simple, easy process for you, but until you ask that question or you listen to that feedback and that chatter, you don't know that's what they're looking for. Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, I'd say is, at least try and get your LinkedIn profile set up. But it should all be linking back to your organisation's website. Okay? Guest blogging, SlideShare. Has everyone heard of SlideShare? Okay, SlideShare, it's an American-based, it's a website, but it's American-based. People from all over the world can upload their slides, so presentations, to SlideShare. If you want to learn about anything, we can go to YouTube if you want to filter through that, or you can go to SlideShare and you can do a search and you can find a presentation on just about anything. And it can actually generate a lot of interest and credibility and business for people. So if you have some presentations that are really, that you're really proud of or that give great information, then think about loading them to SlideShare. It all links back to your website. Make sure that they can be understood without a person there delivering the presentation. So obviously some people might need to adjust their slides slightly, and don't have just a slide just with a page of text on it. That's the other thing with websites. People won't read online like they do a book or an actual piece of paper. So when you're writing content online, it needs to be really short and sharp and concise. It needs to be broken down. So subheadings, smaller paragraphs, dot points, those kind of things. Because if you have 2 or 3 pages of just text, no one's going to read it. They're just go, ugh, and back away. There might be, obviously there's always an exception. But it's really important to keep information really clean and fluid and clear, so it's really easy for people to process and digest.
SlideShare.
Yeah.
Can you have it as a group, like a closed group?
No, it's all open. I believe so. Yeah, look, there's lots of different. So you're sort of you want a sort of a platform where you can have your presentation, but it's member access kind of scenario.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure SlideShare is public. You can actually, Sorry?
First page is nothing in English. Sorry, I've just gone.
There should be.
There it is. Mine's in English. Maybe your iPad's set.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, if you've got conference material, if you've got videos and that you want to share with just a particular organisation or particular group of people, you can set up your YouTube videos to private link only, and you can just send that link or post that link on specific member sites that the general public going to YouTube can't find it on your channel, but your members that have that link can. And that's great for video, but for presentations, there'd be something out there, but SlideShare probably not. Now, the other thing I'll mention, when you're looking at upgrading your website, it's really important I'll answer that question. It's really important to have what we call a content management system. Now, what that means is that's giving you access to the back end of your website, so you can go in and make changes when you need to. Quite often websites will get developed by a development team, and they'll write all this beautiful code and they'll charge you a fortune for it, but you can't make a single change. Okay, every time you want something changed, you have to send it off to the developer, wait for them to make the change, they send you a bill, etc. A content management system allows you to log into the back end and make certain changes. Like there's some things you can't change, but you want to be able to make sure that you can add new articles, you can update photos, you can put new resources on there, you can add a video if you want to. If a page isn't relevant at the moment, you want to be able to hide that page. You want to be able to have control of the content you're putting up there, and a content management system allows you to do that. There are hundreds of different platforms that'll allow it, but just make sure if you're talking to a developer or you're not sure about your system, make sure it's one that you can access and that you have an understanding of how to use. Some are more technical than others, but like Dreamweaver and some of the older versions that are out there can be a little bit technical. But there's a lot of new ones out there these days that are quite user-friendly, and pretty much if you can manage a Word document, you can manage one of these. Okay, so if you're thinking about upgrading, then just check what sort of platform or system it's going to be on and make sure it's one that you or someone in your office that has that administrative access can make the changes that you want to. So you can keep your content fresh and dynamic and up-to-date and relevant to your audience. So it keeps you in control. It does reduce your ongoing costs, because if you just need to make some quick changes, you can just log in and make them. All those kind of things. Like client websites that I work on, I remember a client said, I've updated the newsletter and I put some specials in, but I've got the price wrong. And she'd left for the office and I was in the car. I wasn't driving, thank you. But I just quickly logged in through my iPhone, made the changes for her and logged out, and it was done. They're the simple things. If you want to have notify people of something, if something changes as a new event, you want to be able to go in and just make the change. Simple. Be fluid about it. Make sure there's flexible. Stats and reporting are really important. So when you build your website, you need to know if it's working for you. You need to know how many people are going to it, and you need to know where they're coming from. You need to know how long they're staying on the site. You need to know how many pages they're visiting. Where are they falling off? You know, are they getting to the home page and going bleh and jumping straight back out? So these are things that your website backend should be able to tell you. The other thing that you can plug in for free is Google Analytics. Now that's free software run by Google. They know everything, more than you care to know. You can plug that into the back end of your website and see real stats on where people are coming from, you know, what keywords they used to find you, which search engine they found you through, was it a link from another website, all those kind of things. And they're stats that you need to know, because if you've invested in a website and you can't tell if anyone's coming there or not, then, you know, it's not really money well spent. So this is an investment for your organisation, so you need to know if it's working for you. If you find there's a particular page people are going to and that's where they're dropping off, then obviously something needs to be done about that page. If you've got your membership page but there's no conversions from that page, people aren't finding the join button or they're not finding the sign up option, well, maybe something has to be tweaked on that. Okay, and it can be simple things like implementing proper calls to action on the page. So each page of your website should have a relevant call to action, either leading you to the next lot of information or inviting them to take the next step. And you'll be surprised with how much of a difference some little words can make. So there was an example in the States of a company. They were a big e-commerce company, and they were making, you know, millions of dollars a month in sales. But they got a consultant in to sort of, you know, test their site. And what they found is the button, when people went to buy, the button to complete the sale was register here. And a lot of people were dropping off because they thought, well, I don't want to have a relationship with you. I just want to buy this piece of product, whatever it was. So they were dropping off. Now they changed register here to continue, and their sales went up by millions of dollars that particular year. So just a simple shift, register here to continue. So it could be just make sure that whatever you're telling people to do next is relevant to them and it's not too pushy. Okay? So just simple words, you know, keep it simple. If you're buying a website too, make sure that it does have room to grow as your organisation grows, as you evolve, as you want to share more information with people. You know, I've come across many that have sort of bought a website and it was a bargain, but they're locked into 5 or 10 pages. Now, that's not really a lot of information. So as you want to share different stuff and you have to add more pages, it's going to cost more to do that. So make sure when you're getting one developed that there is the option to add, you know, new information without it costing the bomb. And the ability to include blogs or videos, images, things like that. Because you don't just want a website full of text. It needs to be a bit more exciting than that.
So I just wanted to ask a question a bit about when you say do emails and you do a link to your web page and seeing if people click it and go to your web page.
Yeah.
So I know there's things like Bitty or whatever it is.
Bitly?
Yeah, that one. Is that the main thing people use, or is there other ways that you do so you can track? Like when we tweet or when we do things like that, we use that so we can see how many times it's clicked and blah blah blah. Is that?
Yeah. So Bitly. So it's bit.ly. That's sort of a link shortening service, and you can track where that link's gone and who's opened it. It's a free service, so yeah, you can use that. But it doesn't give you it just gives you a Bitly link, which looks like a bit of gobbledygook. But everyone knows
you can hyperlink it though, wouldn't you be able to?
Yeah, you could, yeah. So that's one way of doing it. If you're using a sort of a platform to automate your social media, like your tweets and your Facebook updates and things like that, depending on the platform you're using, that can usually track the success of those tweets and things as well. And then depending on, so Google Analytics will also give you another layer of data as well on certain things.
So you can use a platform to automate your Twitter post, sorry.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and I won't go into too much about social media. That'll be covered next. But you can. There's Hootsuite and Buffer, I think, is another one. There's quite a few that you can use. The thing with automating, it sounds wonderful, but if someone senses that you're automating everything, again, it loses a bit of that niceness about it, the personal approach. I think it's just another robot. I'm sick of robots talking to me. I want real people. And don't push something out to every platform at the same time. It's a different language that you use on each of them, really. So automation's great to a point, but don't rely on it solely.
Natasha, for the stats and the reporting, do members and users of the website have to be alerted or notified somewhere that data and their usage is going to be monitored and counted?
It's not down to an individual person basis. It just gives you details on, 400 visitors today came from Google, or they might have come from the ANU site, or they'll give you details like that. It will give you a demographic breakdown, usually, but it won't be individual names and whatnot.
So there's no conflict with
No.
privacy?
No. So I guess one of the key messages with your online presence and getting yourself out there, and I guess how you connect with your audience these days, is try not to become good old Albert, try not to become a man of success, but rather to become a man of value. So it is about adding value to your audience, building that experience, helping them along the way, and solving and not selling, okay? And that's going to build a much better relationship with people long term. And more people are going to talk about you. If they've had a really good experience with you and with your organisation, they're more likely to talk on a positive note about you and share that with people. I'd mentioned before about your stats. Keep an eye on your stats. Have a look at the traffic that's coming to your site. Make sure that the investment you've made, time and money, is worth it and is working for you. If you're partnering with another organisation and you're seeing a lot of traffic coming from that site, then keep that relationship going. If you're spending a lot of time and effort on a particular partnership and you're seeing that no traffic is coming through or you're not really getting any reaction, then maybe that's not the best opportunity for you. So keep an eye on your numbers. I'm not saying you have to log in every day, but just keep an eye, be fortnightly or monthly, and make sure that you are getting traffic to your site. See where it's coming from. See what words people are using to find you. See how long they're staying. Are they converting? So are they signing up to newsletters? Are they signing up to membership options and things like that? Okay, and then you can really get an idea of what you need to do going forward to make it work for you. So remember, it is about your audience. So if I come to your website, is it relevant to me? Is it going to help me on my journey to find out more about you, to learn more about what you do, but make it audience focused. Don't just fill it with a heap of text about, the back end story of your research house or your group. Make it easy, so less is more. So if your homepage is full of stuff, then maybe pare it back a little bit or segment it, so I'm not overwhelmed when I come there to find out more information. And have a plan. So think about, what is the purpose of my website? Yes, I need one because that gives me credibility in the marketplace and I exist as far as Google and the world's concerned, but is it to drive new members? Is it to share my information? Is it to, share a message with the wider community? Like, what is the end goal of your website? You might have one or two, and then make sure that's clear throughout. Make sure you're focused on that goal so you're not overwhelming people and confusing the issue with all this other stuff that you could potentially offer them. Does that make sense? Awesome. So thank you for that. If you've got any questions, it's a lot of information to take in. So you can just reach me at natashavanzetti.com.au. I'm happy to take questions or send me an email through that. Connect on Facebook, anything like that. But yeah, it is really about just getting yourself out there in a way that's relevant and to your audience, I guess, and making, building that trust and transparency and sharing the work that you do. Thank you. So I'm happy to take questions too, by the way. I think we've got some time.
Question about forums. Yep. Is like the system that we purchased years ago has an online forum which no one uses. Is that something that's really obsolete now, and is there any point in looking at something that has a forum if we're going to be purchasing software, or should we do this with social media now? Should we?
What organisational?
The Australian Meteorological and Oceanographic Society.
Okay, and what was sort of the purpose of the forum beforehand? What sort of people are in there talking?
Well, we've got a lot of climate change scientists, so I suppose a space where they talk to each other.
Yeah.
No, it was too complicated. The system, people didn't post because it was too hard to post.
Yes.
And these are scientists that can't work that out, so it's obviously too complicated. But I was sort of thinking, is that something that we should be looking for? Do forums still work?
Forums work if they're set up in an environment where the people want to be in there, that it's easy to use, it's easy to filter through the information. It really does depend on the audience and the purpose of it. So if you're looking for a closed group, like a sort of a closed environment where people can talk about, I guess colleague to colleague, they can work, but again, you've got to have the right platform and make sure it's used correctly.
And does LinkedIn have that?
So there's groups within LinkedIn, and you can have a closed group. So that means that you have to be invited and accepted into the group, and that's another good way to sort of have conversations. You can start a conversation and have people comment on that. So that's one option, yeah.
Just comment on that because we've done a lot on that with our association. So we put a forum, pretty much a member forum on our website and spent a lot of money to do that and basically never got any hits or interest. But we have about 5 different virtual networks of different types of people from because we have an organisation group. So we have comms managers of one, CFOs for one, COOs for another. And we've used Google Groups. You can use LinkedIn. I know the IT guys have used LinkedIn, and also Yammer is another one, which is meant for businesses but can work for associations. I have to admit, I find Yammer a bit clunky. It's very similar to Facebook, but there's a few things about it that make it not great, including no formatting in the emails, and when you reply, you think you're replying to everyone, but you're actually replying to the person who posts, so it's real good. But Google Groups actually works, I think, really well, and it's really simple. And as long as you have probably 2 people who drive it a bit, which all that means is make sure you post something once every week or something, for us it works really well.
Once you've trained
it's a real
your
nice
audience,
way of getting a network in the
Do
community.
you have to have a Google email address for that?
For the Google groups, you do have to set up a Google to be an owner, and I think to be a manager, there's a couple of different ways you can do it, but it's no harder than Facebook. In fact, it's easier than Facebook.
And the people that participate don't need
No,
Google.
they don't. It's only the owner or the manager. And I usually have 2 people in case you stuff up some point and delete yourself, so I'm sure I have done on Yammer before. Accidentally, I lost the whole group and couldn't get back into it because also their IT support's crap. But it's free, so you can't complain. But you do have to do a Gmail, but it's so easy with Gmail just to forward anyway. Just have Gmail.
I guess the beauty with Google is that you do know there's a fair infrastructure behind it. And they offer a lot of free services like Google Analytics, Google Alerts. If you're wanting to keep track of something in your sphere, you don't want to keep searching for it, you can set up a Google Alert. It's free. Just put in the search terms that you're interested in, and Google will send you an email daily, weekly, whenever you request, when that is mentioned online. Okay, so it's a really good way to keep track of different things that are happening in your industry or environment. But yeah, Google Groups is great. I hadn't heard of Yammer. I haven't used Yammer, so I can't comment on it. But I think once you train people that this is a safe environment and it's easy to use and they are getting value from it, they will lean to that. But they've got to see that it's worth their time and their effort. Yeah, so it might initially take a little while to get some traction, but it's like anything, if the people are getting value from it and they find it useful and easy, they'll have no problem using it.
And it's also free. Like, this is the other
Yeah.
thing. So with Google Alerts, it saves you paying all this money for media monitoring. You can. It's not as good, but it's close.
It's a good start.
Well, maybe a comment. Everyone's saying they've purchased websites. I think we must be really lucky because one of our executive committee members is fully into open source.
Yeah.
So he's set up their website entirely from open source.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of open source options. WordPress is probably one of the most popular options. Some people find it easy to use, other people struggle with it. I think if you're not sure, then get someone to help you out with it. What I'd say is unless you've got a really intricate membership structure and integration with all different things, that you don't need to spend a lot of money to get a decent web presence these days, because there are so many open source options and different things like that. You don't have to go and spend $10,000 or $15,000 on a website. You can get them for next to nothing these days. In saying that, you do get what you pay for in some respects. So you want to make sure there's flexibility in there. Just because someone technically can build a website doesn't always mean it's effective, because there also has to be a design element. So you need to make sure that the designer and the developer are talking together, and that you've had some thought process put into that. Because technically, yes, I could build a website, and I have, but I don't have the design skill. I know what I like and what I don't like, but I always get a designer to do that side of it. And just make sure that you've worked out your objectives and the flow is right and usability and things like that. So, yeah.
Can I ask you the last question?
Sure.
Before we move on? And this is a bit of a left field question. Have you ever experienced yourself or on a site that you manage for a client, an attack? So that the site starts to be defaced, starts to have all sorts of things appear on there that you don't intend to be there, etc. And if you have, how do you deal with that sort of thing?
Okay. I haven't personally, but I have known, I work with a business coach in Canberra, we work with a lot of his clients, and he said that one of his clients, their website did get hacked by some Palestinian group. It wasn't quite in line with their business message. That was because they'd gone with a cheap hosting option, and that's the other thing. A lot of your websites will probably be, well, I'm not sure, will hosted on secure university networks perhaps, but when you're out there in the general marketplace and you're looking at hosting options, yes, you can get hosting for $10 a month, but you get what you pay for. If it's an offshore host or they're overloaded, it can be slow, etc. And there is, the opportunity that people will hack into that. So make sure that you're getting a reputable host for your website if you're hosting it outside a secure environment. For social media and things like that, occasionally you're going to get someone who's going to throw a negative comment out there, but you can turn negative comments around to be a positive. Just deleting it's not going to work. That's going to fuel the fire. The example I'll give you, and I'll be quick, isn't relevant to your industry, but it's a good example of how negativity can be turned around. So Poacher's Pantry out in Murrumbateman, they set up a Google alert for Poacher's Pantry, and they got a Google alert one day to say that on the Riot Act, has everyone heard of the Riot Act in Canberra? So people go and then comment and things like that. Someone posted a really negative review about Poacher's Pantry on the Riot Act. They said, we went out there for lunch, it was a weekend, we were sat so close to the band we couldn't hear each other talk, and then we were asked to leave before we even got time to have dessert. And they had a big rant and they were really upset and just told everyone never to go to Poacher's Pantry. Now she saw the Google alert and she goes, oh, that's not great. So she replied and she said, I'm really sorry you've had that experience. It was the first time we've had a band at lunchtime. We know now not to have them so close to the tables. You had a 12 o'clock booking. You should have been told there was another sitting at 2, so that's our fault. We're sorry about that. Let us make it up to you next time you come back. We'll give you, I think it was a bottle of wine and something else. So the person that complained originally got back on and said, wow, someone actually cares. Thank you for that. We look forward to trying you again. Okay, so that was just a simple turnaround. They took it on as feedback. That was customer feedback. Yes, they'd made a mistake. They now knew what to fix. Social media platforms and other things, if you get a negative comment, you can take it offline. You don't have to continue the conversation online. So say, I'm really sorry you've had that experience. I'll send you a private message and we'll sort this out or whatever. Take it offline. But just deleting it or, being aggressive back isn't going to work. But it's few and far between. I mean, it's like the media. They pick up on any negative little thing they can find. But more often than not, it's mostly positive out there. Awesome. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, drop me an email or send me a message, and good luck.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.